Welcome to our podcast, Living Our Best with Memory Loss. What makes this podcast unique is that 3 of its hosts, Bob, Dennis, and Sue Ann, have a memory loss diagnosis. The purpose of this podcast is for people to share their experiences with cognitive decline. It is not to provide medical advice. We are not doctors, and we stress that what might have worked for one person might not work for others. If anything you hear on this program inspires you to explore treatment options, we recommend you do so in consultation with your physician.
Welcome back to our podcast, Living Our Best with Memory Loss. Today, we are so pleased to welcome Sallie Gentry, a licensed clinical social worker here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Sallie has worked with diverse populations, yet her primary focus and passion lie in supporting caregivers and those with cognitive disorders. Welcome, Sallie. We're so glad to have you today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great. Well, maybe you could start by just summarizing how you developed your passion for this area and then how that has formed in your professional life.
Sure, yeah. So I've always known since I was younger that I wanted to help people. It originally started out with being an orthopedic surgeon, but that did not work out. Whoa, that was way off. And so, but I always knew that I wanted to help people. And so, for those of people who are listening who have heard me speak in the past, kind of my why was my dad was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis whenever I was younger. And so we lived with him and his chronic illness throughout most of my life. And then he ended up passing away at 52. But I know how it is to live with someone who's chronically ill, who is, completely dependent upon the people who live there, and very much see that being a caregiver is a 24-hour job. I mean, there's no time off, there's no PTO, there's no being like, hey, I'm going to go run to the store without someone being there too. And so I've seen it from very much a firsthand. There were several experiences that we had with my dad, with like the medical profession and with, just others in general life, that I was like, I feel like that, we're really missing a huge chunk here of caregiver support and people, who there's so many people who are caregivers, and it's just such a lacking need where there's just nothing for them. And so then I quickly realized that social worker was more of my thing versus an orthopedic surgeon. And
Maybe takes a little less time, as far as
yes,
instead of med school. Yeah.
yes, and a little less science.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And so once I realized that, then things just kind of started flowing. I knew that I wanted to do medical social work. I realized during COVID that caregivers were really having a hard time. All of a sudden, like your support groups have stopped. You're being able to go, to the grocery store has stopped. You're being able to go to church has stopped. Everything that you have done outside of the house has stopped. And now you are literally with your loved one 24 hours a day. And so I was getting more and more calls, and the more and more calls I got, I was like, someone really needs to be there for these caregivers specifically. So that's when I kind of started shifting my focus, and I left that doctor's office. I kept ALS, and then I started a private practice. And so I see probably about like 60% caregivers for people with are caring for someone with Parkinson's or dementia. And then I would say like 40% are people who have been diagnosed with something. So it kind of escalated from there, and I love it. And it's been amazing. I just have such a passion for them, and they just really want to learn how to better take care of their loved ones. Like they really just have that desire and that need. And so I'm happy to do that.
Well, we think that's very important, and we all agree that caregivers are just as important with the person with the diagnosis. They have a big role to play, and so here we are.
Yeah.
Sallie, I have a question for you. You'd mentioned that your father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Mhm.
Did he ever have MCI due to multiple sclerosis? And I know that Sue Ann can relate to this since
Yeah,
that's
sure can.
Sue
Yeah.
Ann's diagnosis.
Right.
So I was curious, what happened with your father?
Yes. Oh, yes, he did. Definitely. I mean, I would say he got diagnosed in probably like 1990. And so, back then and it was primary progressive, which there still aren't really meds necessarily for that specifically. But, there really wasn't anything. And so, yes, absolutely. I very much lived with that with him too. So,
I'm very comfortable disclosing that I came to see you after I was diagnosed, and it started really affecting my daily life because I just was really struggling with um, feelings like I should be able to do better, and that sense of purpose was sort of like I can't trust my brain anymore. I used to just be able to do 3 or 4 or 5 things and them all come out and be fine, and I couldn't juggle multiple what they call that multitasking. That's it. I was having a word finding issue there. So, I just couldn't do that anymore. And it was things that my wife noticed, and I wanted her to be able to trust that if I said I was going to do something, I would do it. And yet I couldn't trust myself that that would happen. And you helped me so much to be able to move through that feeling bad about myself phase. And maybe you could speak a little about what it's like for people when they're diagnosed and that shift that happens in their own self-awareness and self-esteem.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, purpose is such a big thing that I talk about probably, I would say, in every session. Mainly because, when you're first diagnosed with, MCI, dementia, whatever it is, Parkinson's disease, whatever it is, then it seems kind of like, you're on this pathway of kind of coping with the diagnosis. And then your caregiver all of a sudden is like, oh, well, I need to do so much more for you. I need to start, well, now that they have a memory problem, I need to start doing all of the things, like
Guilty. I'm guilty.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Yes.
it's very relatable. Yeah.
Very.
because it's the person you love, right? Like it's the person that you love and you want to make their life as comfortable as possible and easy as possible. And as the caregiver, you think that you're doing the best thing for them because, hey, if I take this off their plate, then they're going to be happier. They're going to be better. It's going to be, great. When in reality, the caregiver starts doing more and more and starts taking over more of the chores, more of the household stuff, more of the outside stuff. And then now all of sudden the person diagnosed with MCI or neuro, cognitive disorder is like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I'm just sitting here watching TV and now I don't have anything to do because now my loved one is doing all of the chores. And then you're just kind of like, Why am I even here?"
Uh,
Like,
I was a control freak before Bob's diagnosis, so I had my own issues. Have, I should say, not had. I am absolutely guilty of that because I want to take things off his plate and make things easier on him. And he will tell you, you can be honest and say that I frustrate the living hell out of you because I do try to take things off his plate. And in my mind, I'm making it easier for him. And so I will, oh, yeah, I take as much as I can off his plate and to a degree, he can do 98% of it, but I feel like I am making his life easier and not putting him in a position where maybe if he can't do it, he's embarrassed but as a caregiver, that's one of my greatest challenges.
It would have been a lot better and easier if you started doing things for me 20 years ago.
exactly like you said,
Yeah.
you're trying to make it easier and you're trying to make it better. And you think you're doing the right thing. But then I have so many people who are coming to me, like I said, with MCI, with early stages dementia, Parkinson's, and they're like, now I don't do anything. Like, do I have a purpose? Like, what am I contributing to this family and to this life? And is there even a need for me to be here? And which is a really hard thing for people to kind of get to. And it's a really hard feeling to feel. Like that just feels bad. And so I talk to a lot of people about, okay, let's talk about what your loved one can do. And it's interesting because some caregivers are like, nothing. They can't do anything. And I'm like, oh, okay, nothing. I'm like, so they're bedbound. And they're like, well, no. I'm like, okay, well, so can they go to the bathroom by themselves? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, okay, so they can walk. They're like, yes. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, can they feed themselves? They're like, yes, but they can't make meals. And I was like, but they can get the fork, from the plate to their mouth. So which means that they can still use their hands, right? And they're like, yes. So I'm like, okay, so let's try to problem solve some things that they can do. Is it going to look different than what it looked like before? Yes, it is. It's not going to be the same quality. It's not going to be the same level that you're probably used to. Can you do it significantly faster as the caregiver? 100%. Yes, you can. But does that matter? No, it doesn't matter. Let them do things, let them fold laundry, let them, sweep the kitchen, let them wipe down the countertops,
Oh, you're going a little too far now.
The chore list is getting longer.
Yeah.
I could go all day with the
Corey's
chores.
over there taking notes,
But,
taking notes.
Holy cow.
But I think really what you're driving at is a sense of self-esteem.
Yes.
Your world gets smaller, your abilities diminish, but it's still a conversation that my wife and I have all the time. It's just, please don't take this chore from me yet. There's this long list of things that I can no longer do, but I can still mow the lawn.
Mhm.
Okay.
Would you mind coming to my house?
Or I can still house clean.
Okay.
And that's important.
Yeah.
That's really important. And a lot has to do with esteem because you're perhaps a shadow or a fraction of what you used to be intellectually, just in terms of your cognitive output, your abilities. So now stuff like sweeping the floor is important. I can manage to get all the dust in the dustpan
Yep.
and not just recirculate it.
Right. Exactly.
so-
And does it take you a little bit longer? Sure.
Sure.
But does it matter?
Yeah.
No. Because you're still getting it done. So having chore list and tasks, I talk a lot about that.
I love everything you're saying. And I mean, I don't mean to make this a therapy session on myself, but I need to be better at this because Bob will go to put food on the grill and then he will time it and he'll go to his timer and he's amazing at doing this. And you're an amazing griller, by the way. And so, but to me, it would literally be, I hope I don't set off anybody's phone. Hey, Siri, set the timer for 2 minutes. That's how I would do it. So when Bob does it his way, it frustrates me. And so I need to apply everything you're saying and be a little more patient. And what does it matter, to your point? I love that you just said, so what? It's going to happen faster or slower, or it doesn't matter. And then that's really what I need to start living by.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff, there's, multiple ways to an end goal. I mean, I think a lot of people probably say that, like your house, there's different routes you can take. There's always multiple ways you can get there. But as long as he's getting there, is it going to matter in an hour how they do something? Is it going to matter next week how they do something? No. The whole point is that they're still able to do it. It's getting done. Nobody's in danger. Everybody's safe. And so it's more about oftentimes like the caregiver letting go of that kind of that ego and of that, feeling like that they're the ones who are right. And so I talk to caregivers a lot about that. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like if maybe they're not wearing the same clothes that they would have worn, like 5 or 10 years ago, like it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, are they dressed appropriately for the weather? Yes. Well, okay. Are they comfortable? Are they happy? Is it really worth the fight that you want to do? So,
This is hitting way too close to home.
oh.
She is in private practice.
I was gonna
so, yeah. She does have a private practice.
Okay, I do need to call you before
Yes.
you leave. I need to get your number.
Well, one of the things I experienced was my care partner is my wife. And if I said something incorrectly out, most of the time out, and at home too, then there would be a correction. And I really struggled with that because that felt really bad to me to be corrected, especially in public. And so we had to have a lot of hard conversations about that. And again, it was like, if nobody's going to get hurt, I mean, so I got the time wrong. You could wait till I left the room and say, oh, by the way, it's not 8 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. Or, there are ways to do that and still leave me with my dignity, so to speak, because it felt very parent-child to be corrected that way. And we've made a lot of progress in that. The other thing that hit me was I need to have as much patience with my wife as I want her to have with me. And that was like right between the eyes because I was wanting her to do things a certain way because it felt better to me. And she was trying to find her way on this journey with me, just like I'm trying to find my way. And so to have that offer that grace to each other and that patience to each other just made us feel closer rather than further apart, or like one of us was, the adult and the other one had to be minded or, herding cats kind of thing. So I just felt like that was a real aha moment for me that I need to have as much patience with her as I want her to have with me. So that was very helpful for me.
Yeah, no, I agree because, like I said earlier, your caregiver is going on this journey with you. I mean, they love you more than anything on this planet. They have chosen you, either as a spouse or, they're the mother, sister, daughter, whatever, brother, whatever. And they love you and they are hurting too that the person they love is going through this. And so they're trying, oftentimes, I mean, I've never talked to a single caregiver who has approached anything with malice. They think that they're all doing, the best thing for their loved one.
Absolutely.
And so it's all about trying to kind of come together and figure out what's the best way for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think what you were talking about before about purpose, I think purpose is very important. After I retired and I was just sitting around, of course, I was starting to have the problem also with the MCI that you have to have a purpose to even get out of bed in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, you're just in bed and staying in there. And so the purpose is something I have to do. So I went to Lori one day and I said, I need to get a purpose. I need to either go out and get a job or do something. And she says, oh, that's good. I'll put you to work. So, so she did. And the pay's not worth a damn, but it's still purpose. And that's what I needed to get up and do something.
Yeah,
That's great.
no, absolutely. I recently talked with one of my clients who she's got a movement disorder and her spouse was doing all, she was just kind of sitting there because like I said, she has a movement disorder, so she's a little bit, just off balance. And so her spouse was doing all of the chores before she even got out of bed because oftentimes with movement disorders they stay in bed a little bit longer and their schedule just kind of shifts a little bit where they're better in like the afternoon because of stiffness. And so her and I talked a lot about, and I was like, okay, like what if you gave your spouse a list of things that you're going to do and then they're not allowed to ask you about it until 6 p.m. And if it's not done at 6 p.m., then they are allowed to say, like, hey, Sue Ann, I noticed that you haven't dusted yet. Do you need help with that?
Yes, I do.
Yes. I mean,
Mhm.
same all day, every day. And so, but they would be allowed to say, like, hey, Sue Ann, I noticed you haven't dusted. Would you like help with that? And then she can at that point respond and say, actually, yes, I'm feeling a little tired today. That would be great if you helped me with that. And she said that it's actually been a game changer because her spouse, was a little, unsure at first, but, it sounds like he's kind of like you where he has everything that kind of needs to be a certain way, but that now that's what they're doing. And so he waits until 6 p.m. if she hasn't done everything, that she's supposed to do. And it's working a lot better. And she was like, finally, I can do things again. He is seeing that I'm able to do things because you can do things. I mean, people up until like the advanced stages can do something.
And one more challenge, being a caregiver for folks with dementia, is the day-to-day fluctuations in ability. Good days, bad days. And there's a vast difference between a good day and a bad day. So the situation might be entirely different on a Tuesday than it is on a Wednesday. Through no fault of the diagnosed, it's just her abilities are drastically reduced that day. It's not that she's not trying as hard or that she doesn't have the best intentions. It's just that she's not able. And the next day, she's, back to 90% of her at her best. And it's just that's another real challenge for a caregiver is to be aware of those fluctuations and to be however present she needs to be uh, in respect to that.
Yeah, meet them where they are that
Yeah,
day.
that.
Yes, and if it is a day where you're like, man, it's going to be a little bit of a rough day, kind of being there for that, supporting that, and just, respecting that as best as you can. And then on the next day when things are a little bit better, it's like, all right, well, let's get to cracking. Let's do some things. Let's take advantage of all of these good days, but then also let's be respectful and supportive for the days that are a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sallie, thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining us. This has been such a pleasure. I mean, really,
No,
thank you.
thank
The
you all for
time has
having me.
flown by, but wow, some great tips and great advice, and I need to make an appointment with you.
You're sweet. Thank you all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank
It's
you,
been so
Sallie.
wonderful.
We agree.
So good
so
to
much.
see you again.